How many of you have ever used products from Johnson & Johnson? What about Estee Lauder or Procter & Gamble? These companies, along with dozens of others, test their products on animals, which leads me to my topic for this speech on why animal testing needs to end. So what is animal testing? According to Humane Society International, animal testing is defined as procedures performed on living animals for purposes of research into basic biology and diseases, assessing the effectiveness of new medical products, and testing the human health and/or environmental safety of consumer industry products such as cosmetics, household cleaners, food additives, pharmaceutical and industrial chemicals. All procedures, even those classified as mild, have the potential to cause the animal's physical and psychological distress and suffering. Most animals are killed at the end of an experiment, but some may be reused for subsequent experiments. There are many different types of tests that are done on animals depending on the product that they are testing for. First is the skin sensitivity test. There are two different types of tests used for this. One involves injecting a substance under the skin of a guinea pig and observing to see if the skin becomes itchy, inflamed, ulcerated, or painful. The second, which is the most common because it is faster, involves applying the substance to the ears of mice. After scientists observe, they kill the mice and remove the lymph nodes next to the ears, and count the white blood cells extracted from those nodes to measure the immune responses. The second is the skin and eye irritation test. The test used for this is called the Gervais test. It is usually performed on rabbits. The rabbit gets fully shaved and the scientist will apply a substance to the bare skin and look for damages, such as rashes, swelling, scaling, or lesions. They can also apply it to the rabbit's eyes to see if it causes redness, bleeding, cloudiness, ulcers, or blindness. The third is acute toxicity. For this, scientists use something called the limit test, and it is used to see how much of a substance it takes to kill an animal that are exposed to it. These tests are mostly done on rats, rabbits, or guinea pigs. This is done by either force-feeding the substance to the animals, applying it to their shaved skin, or by placing a tube in them and forcing them to inhale it. If more than half of the animals survive the test, the scientists repeat it with a higher dose until they find the amount needed to kill half the animals. The fourth is the long-term toxicity tests. Scientists expose rats to a substance every day for either 28 or 90 days, then kill them and dissect them to see how the chemical affected their cells and organs. Another test, they expose rats to the substance, then draw blood for them every day to see when the chemical reaches its peak concentration in their blood. They then kill the rats at different times to examine their organs to observe how the substance has moved throughout their bodies over time. In the longest-term toxicity test, scientists expose over 400 rats or mice to the substance every day for 2 years. They then kill them and examine their tissue for signs of cancer or other chronic diseases. The fifth and final type of testing is reproductive and developmental effects. This is to show how a substance could affect a pregnant woman or their developing babies. One test, scientists will expose hundreds of male and female rats to the test substance for 2 or 4 weeks before mating and continue to expose the female through her pregnancy. 4 days after she gives birth, they will kill her babies and will examine their tissues. An even longer-term test is called the Chew Generation Study. It involves taking the baby rats from that first type of test and continuing to expose them to the same substance throughout their lives. Rats that survive to adulthood are then mated, and the test repeats with a second generation of females. So how does it affect humans? Surprisingly, animal testing does not just affect animals, it affects humans as well. Oftentimes, in misleading animal testing, humans can become harmed. The use of non-predictive animal experiments can cause human suffering in at least 2 ways. 1, by producing misleading safety and efficacy data, and 2, by causing potential abandonment of useful medical treatments and misdirecting resources away from more effective testing methods. Imprecise animal results from animal experiments may result in clinical trials of biological fault or even harmful substances, which then exposes patients to unnecessary risks. This once occurred in a 2006 study when humans got injured with a drug that was successful on rats, rabbits, and guinea pigs, but had a complete opposite effect on humans and resulted in a catastrophic systemic organ failure. As similar as human and animal DNA may be, just because it successfully worked on animals does not mean that it was going to be the same outcome on humans, and that easily could have been prevented. If the testing had been done on human tissue or another form of non-animal testing, the scientists conducting the experiment would have seen it would not have worked and could have eventually saved those people. There are so many ways to conduct research and gather data for companies without using animal tests. There are many new kinds of chemical safety tests that rely on human cells and tissues, computer modules, synthetic tissues, or organs from animals that have already died rather than living animals. Epiderm and skim ethic are two tests that can be done without harming animals. They take synthetic versions of human skin that can be used in place of rabbit skin to test chemicals for skin corrosion or irritation. Additionally, new test methods make it possible to test eye irritation using the eyes of cattle and chickens that have already been slaughtered for their meat. Our current situation with COVID-19 demonstrates that researchers can skip animal testing and go straight to observing how vaccines work in humans. Moderna Therapeutics is a company who is currently working on a COVID-19 vaccination, and they have been working on using new technology that includes a synthetic copy of the COVID-19 genetic code rather than it being based on a weakened form of the virus. Taking this step has allowed the company to fast-track the development process, and their chief medical officer stated that he didn't think proving this in an animal model is on the critical path to getting this into a clinical trial. A simple way to reduce testing in general is to avoid using new chemicals that need testing. There are thousands of ingredients available that are known to be safe either because they've been tested before or they've been safely used for decades. Alttox.org is a website that has a list of 80 animal-free tests that have been approved by regulatory agents. Some of these tests are often faster, cheaper, and more accurate than the old-fashioned animal testing. So, in conclusion, animal testing should be eliminated because it violates animals' rights, it causes pain and suffering to experimental animals, and other means of testing products are available. Please consider supporting the campaign Cruelty Free International and signing their petition to stop animal testing. Additionally, use and support products like these that do not use animal testing. Thank you.